Have you ever missed an appointment? Have you ever missed a due date for an assignment? Have you ever just had your schedule completely run away with you and overwhelm you, and you got behind, and then you got further and further behind, and you got so far behind that you were so overwhelmed with the amount of work to be done that you just get totally frozen and stymied, and you can't seem to move forward? Well, we're not going to let that happen this semester because we're going to set up and follow a great plan that'll help us keep on top of our schedule, keep on top of our tasks, and keep on top of our appointments. Now, to-do lists are great, calendars are great, but they're only tools. Tools only work if you use them. Think of a tool like a hammer. If it's sitting in the drawer, then it's not accomplishing anything. Maybe you have something you need to pound into the wall, but if you don't actually go to the drawer and get the hammer and use it, the hammer as a tool has no value, right? It's the same with scheduling. It's the same with planning. We can write all our stuff down, but it's not going to be effective and useful unless we follow it. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how to set up a schedule and how to follow it this semester so that you'll be able to stay on top of, stay up to date with, and maybe even get ahead of the amount of work that you have to do. To start the planning process, you're going to need to gather up these things. First of all of your course syllabi, whether you're taking one class or 4 classes or however many, get out all your course syllabi. Have them available either on paper or on your computer screen. Secondly, your work schedule. If you work outside of class, if you work a job in addition to being a student, you'll need to have your work schedule handy. And thirdly, a list of any other fixed appointments that you have. These might be doctor's appointments, these might be weekly meetings of a student organization, anything like that that is situated in a specific place and time that you need to make a little block of time for. So gather up those 3 things in whatever form you have them. Now, we're going to start the calendar or planning process, and you might be wondering, well, what should I use or what do you recommend I use? Anything you use is okay because it's a tool. So if you use your tool, it's great. You can hammer in a nail with a hammer, you can do it with a brick. I don't care. The point is you need to have something that is accessible and easy for you to use. So that might be a paper calendar, that might be paper lists, that might be a list on your phone, it might be a spreadsheet on your computer. Whatever you do, as long as you're going to use it, is just fine. Okay, let's get started with putting in some dates. Starting with your syllabi, lay those out in front of you if they're on paper, or lay them out on your computer screen, whatever it is you're doing, and start marking things in your calendar, be that a phone calendar, a paper calendar, whatever. Start marking dates on your calendar. First of all, assignment due dates. So go through each syllabus, look at the schedule, look at when things are due, look at when papers are due, and things like that, and write those due dates in your calendar. Secondly, look at exam dates, okay? Quizzes, exams, midterms, finals, other periodic exams. Anytime there's a test in a class, put that down. So quiz 1 in class such and such, or midterm in class such and such. Write all those in, okay? Now, thirdly, and this is the really important thing, this is what's going to help you stay on top of everything. Give yourself 1-week warnings on all of these, okay? So go through, once you've got all those dates in, and for example, with the assignments, back up 1 week, and on that date, give yourself a warning. Paper due next Thursday in such and such class, okay? Or quiz next Friday, or midterm exam a week from Monday, whatever it might be. Give yourself 1-week warnings on each of those things. This is key. This is going to help you to have time to prepare and to not let your schedule run away from you, to not, turn the calendar over to Monday and, oh no, I've got a test today that I haven't prepared for. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to spend a whole week doing these things. You might not spend a whole week studying for a test. You might not spend a whole week writing a brief paper, but you're warning yourself, you're bringing it back to mind ahead of time that that due date is coming up. The next step is to look at your work schedule if you do work a job outside of being a student, and to put those dates and times on your calendar. So take your shift schedule and write those in tentatively on your calendar. Now, I understand that those might change, and I understand that you might not get that information really far in advance, but it really helps for planning to start writing those things in. So if you know you normally work on, say, Mondays from 1 to 4, put that on your calendar. If you know you normally work Tuesdays and Thursdays from 11 to 2, put that on your calendar. You can always change them later, but it's going to really help you in putting the puzzle pieces of your schedule together. Finally, you want to put your other fixed appointments on the calendar. This might be a weekly meeting that you have, say every Wednesday afternoon at 4, something like that, or medical appointments that you have coming up. So any things that are fixed in time, put those on. So now, as you have put your class schedule and your work schedule and your meetings and appointments on your calendar, you're going to notice a couple of things. First of all, it's getting pretty full already. And secondly, that there are blank spaces. There are some chunks of time on there. So that's the time we get to decide what to do with. Now, we all need a chunk of time in the morning to get up, get dressed, fix ourselves, and get to work or get to school, right? So you'll need to decide what chunk of time that is going to entail. It's nice to take a chunk of time in the middle of the day to eat some lunch and to just kind of regroup. And you might want to designate a chunk of time in the evening after a certain hour that, you're allowing yourself some rest and relaxation. So now we're going to take those blank spaces and start to figure out what we're going to do during those times. So looking at the exams and papers that you've scheduled for your classes, think about how long do you think that assignment is going to take you to do, and where can you fit in working on it. So let's say you decide that every Monday from 2 to 4, you have a chunk of time when you can study for your math class for the week ahead. Okay, so between 2 and 4 on Monday, mark that off as math class study time. Let's say that you have papers due almost every week, so you want to block off a chunk of time for writing, which is different from studying because it usually involves gathering information, researching sources, and things like that. So let's say that you have short or long papers due almost every week, so you're going to set aside an hour on Wednesday and an hour on Friday morning for writing. Now, maybe you don't have a paper due that week, but you can look ahead, right? You can start gathering resources for things that are coming down the road. So I recommend that you block off some of those chunks of empty time for studying for your various classes and for writing time. Now, it's hard to predict how much time a person needs to study because it's going to depend on you. It's going to depend on how fast you retain information and things like that. But I generally find that students underestimate the amount of time they need to study. Many students think that they can read over the material once, half an hour before the test and do well. For most of us, it takes repetition and it takes a little time to get into our minds. So you'll know best for you, but you'll want to set aside time for each of your classes, which means if you're taking 4 classes, consider that if you spend an hour a week studying for each class, that would be 4 hours of time that you'd want to incorporate into your calendar. If realistically you need 2 hours a week to study for each of your classes, that's going to be 8 hours a week that you need to block off and incorporate into your schedule. And as you do that blocking off process, again, you're going to find that your calendar is filling up pretty fast, but it's also like a jigsaw puzzle. Where can I fit things in? So give yourself that challenge to Plan periods of time for study. Now, you'll also want to plan break periods. So if you have a day where you have several classes in a row, you might not want to schedule writing time that day because you know yourself and you know that you're going to be tired. For me, Tuesday and Thursday are my long days. I'm teaching pretty much all day, which means I'm on my feet all day, which means that I am on, emotionally on all day. I'm troubleshooting, I'm um, explaining things to people, and it takes a lot of energy out of me. So I try not to schedule any other big things on Tuesday and Thursday, and I do try to build in some short breaks into my day. You know yourself best, you know where those breaks are necessary, and you know when to give yourself a day off. So for example, if you have a really full week Monday through Thursday, and then you work Friday morning until say 2 o'clock on Friday, you might know that I can't schedule anything after work on Friday. After 2 o'clock on Friday, I'm just beat. I'm done for the week. I can't function at my best during that time. So this takes some self-reflection, some self-awareness to build in that flexibility to your schedule. So now you've laid out this great schedule, right? You have this great tool. And when you look at it, it might look a little overwhelming right now because it's very full, I imagine. But remind yourself, this isn't all one day. This is the next however many weeks. But it's a reassurance, it's a security, it's knowing that you're not going to miss things this time around. You're not going to miss appointments, miss assignments, or have things creep up on you faster than you had planned. But it's only a tool. Like my hammer analogy, it's only a tool. Tools are no good unless you use them. So now you have to use this great schedule that you have made. And I'll tell you how I use mine. I spend just a couple minutes with it every morning and every evening. So I look at the day ahead. First thing in the morning, I glance over what are my appointments, what are the things that I absolutely have to do today that have fixed points on my schedule, where is the wiggle room, where is the extra time, where do I have time to read or write or study, which is something professors do as well, and what would I like to do? Then I can sit down and make a to-do list for the day. Well, here are some of the things I'd like to accomplish today. But I know when my fixed appointments are, and I know when my chunks of discretionary time are. So I look at that first thing in the morning, and then at night before I go to bed, I usually look at the day ahead as well and the week ahead, the next few days. What do I have to do? When is your first appointment in the morning or your first class in the morning? Know that so you don't oversleep and that you get out of the house in a timely manner so you can get to where you're going. And you can make your to-do list for the next day at that time. But spending this doesn't take a lot of time. Just spending a couple of minutes first thing in the morning and last thing at night looking at your schedule and thinking about what you have to do in the day ahead and the days ahead. It's really going to ease your mind because you're going to know that you're on top of things. You can even get ahead if possible if you get caught up on the work that you have planned. But this way you're not going to miss anything. You're not going to have anything come up on you and surprise you. You're not going to forget that you had that dental appointment that you made 6 months ago. You're not going to forget that that big paper is due that you've known about all semester but haven't really prepared for or thought about. You're not going to forget that that exam is tomorrow and you've done nothing to prepare. You're going to have warned yourself at least a week ahead of time to think about and look at that exam. I hope this has been useful. I hope that you give it a try, and I would love to hear how these ideas are working for you. I wish you a wonderful new semester, and I'll talk to you very soon. Bye.